This week in
I like big
books, and I cannot lie, this video is specifically for or inspired by or has been asked for by the Bristol Book Club. You can find them on Instagram along with me. I am. If you'd like to make a suggestion for a video for, I don't know, a group of words or some other wordy subject, then please say something in the comments, or I don't know, send me a message or something. This word goes back to Old English and further back to Proto-Germanic. That root word means beech tree. I'm not sorry for that intentional root word joke with the tree and... Incidentally, the word beech goes, well, it goes so far back, it goes as far back as linguists can see. Oh, and it's not related to beach as in seashore. That word means basically the smoothing of the pebbles on, on that you'd find on a typical English seashore. Anyway, back to books. The word books going back to beech probably comes from the fact that, well, beech would have been the main material that you would make wooden tablets out of, that you would then sort of scrawl runes onto or etch or carve runes into. Interestingly, Sanskrit and Latin also use words for trees for the root of their words for book. I'm not sorry. Those, by the way, being birch and ash. No sign of the larch. Apart from tablets, there is another theory that suggests that it refers to people carving their names or, you know, things into the bark of trees. We still do that today. Come to think of it, I think human beings will draw or write on just about anything. I mean, who hasn't enjoyed the drawing the odd phallic representation onto either a textbook or a parked car covered in snow? Or really anything, actually. I mean, yeah. This one is a mess. There appears to be a huge amount of debate surrounding when a novel first appeared, what the first novel was, how long it's been around, which is the same as when a novel first appeared. Thankfully, the etymology is quite clear. The term appeared sometime in the mid-15th century in Italy with the term novella, which means little new. The diminutive form comes from the ella at the end. That's either the feminine or the smaller form of a noun. The actual use is very similar to how we would use the term news today. News is a funny word when you think about it. It's a bit like the term movies. So when movies first came out, they were, you know, as opposed to static photos, so people moved in them, so they were the movies. When you think about it, it's sort of childlike, like baddies and goodies. And news. Do you not find that funny? Sorry, I digress. So anyway, later on, or at the time, according to who you want to take your sources from, when people started to write longer form fiction, the term novel was used, i.e. to mean it was a new form, so it was new. Incidentally, we still use the term novella today to mean a shorter novel. If you're a person of a certain type, you may remember that encyclopedias were great big tomes that your family bought in, well, to sort of one at a time, and they had to save up for, and they went in a special place in the house. I mean, where else? These giant volumes would have been filled with pictures of, well, probably ladies with long necks and rings around them, and then also probably a stick insect or a volcano, and then also probably maybe a typhoon class submarine from the United Soviet republics. Of course, today it is all online, but I would highly recommend having a physical copy of an encyclopedia, possibly, well, some kind of reference book similar to Encyclopedia. For any curious mind, young or old, there really is nothing like pottering about the pages of human knowledge. For me, encyclopedias fed a lifelong obsession with reference books that, well, will probably outlive my ability to access whatever thing we have in the future that I find I can't do anymore. Probably made by Amazon, probably an afterlife of some kind, probably something we have to pay rent for. The word encyclopedia goes back to the 16th century, itself a misreading of a Greek word, and in that mistranslation it was thought to mean general education. It actually means training in a circle. Now the circle is sort of like the circle of the arts or the circle of the disciplines, so you might have, I don't know, the arts and the philosophies and the sciences. The cyclos bit in the middle, so encyclopedia encyclopedia, that's that's the same root as cycle and bicycle. It means circle. Now, early bikes, which some of them had pedals, but most of them you would just sort of run along, a bit like a balance bike these days. Those were called velocipedes, which is the absolute tits. Anyway, break it down, and you've got the Latin velux, which is, it means swift, and the pede, which means feet. So swift feet. Of course, that pede is different from the pedia in the encyclopedia, because that pede means child. So in encyclopedia it refers to the circle of training. That training references children. Now, I don't know why that particular type of training references children. If you know a little bit of ancient Greek, then please let me know, and then I can know, and I can feel a bit more cleverer. Incidentally, you may remember the pede bit from another word which ends in philia. Maybe we should move on from that. Finally, there's the spelling. So encyclopedia is spelt possibly with an A-E or possibly with an E. Now, in English we spell it with an E, but in the old Latin or Greek sense we would spell it A-E. Now, the difference is context, of course, because context rules most things. So if we were to spell encyclopedia in the modern age in an English sense, we would use an E. But if we were to say something like, I don't know, Encyclopaedia Britannica, which is a Latin context, so Britannica being the Latin form of Britain, then we would spell it with an A-E because it is in context. Does that make sense? Sometimes I wonder whether any of this makes sense. This one is just great. Despite being a relatively unassuming word, the sort of word, just like the book really, that probably spends its time on a top shelf somewhere gathering dust, it actually directly translates as treasure. A thesaurus is, as I'm sure you know, a synonym dictionary, and it's completely invaluable in something like, I don't know, crosswords, or if you're writing something and you want it to actually sound not at all cliched, if that's even possible. The root of it comes from Latin. It basically means treasury or hoard or collection. Disappointingly, I can't find any link between the Greek word saurus, meaning lizard as in dinosaur, which means that a thesaurus will never be a type of word dinosaur. The term fiction and non-fiction, well, they're both a little odd really, because what you've got on one side is basically anything that comes from the imagination, and on the other side, everything else. In the words of Paul, at least that's how he's referred to in David Shields' Reality Hunger, non-fiction is an entire dresser labelled non-socks. The definition of fiction as something specific to novels or short stories comes from the 19th century. Now, if you go back to the 16th century, it meant also plays, poems, really anything imagined in the mind and put to paper, a bit like the Daily Mail. The word itself comes from Old French, and in that form it meant to lie or to, come up with a ruse, which is a great word, a ruse. French, being a Romance language, or Roman, meaning Latin language, means that the root goes back to Latin. That one means feigning or fashioning. The root of the Latin is theoretical and goes back to Proto-Indo-European. That one gave us, lots of modern words. So it gave us configure, disfigure, it gave us dairy, it gave us feign, it gave us fictional, and of course fiction. Oh, and doe and effigy. Those are two others which were on the script, but I couldn't remember them. If you like these videos, then please like or comment or subscribe. As I said at the top, this video was suggested by the Bristol Book Club, so you can find them on Instagram. If you'd like to see me cover either a word or a group of words or something like that, please, I don't know, leave a comment or send me a message. If you own a business in Bristol and you wouldn't mind me coming in and having your business in the background of one of these videos, please do get in touch. Today I'm in Bloom And Curll, which is a wonderful, beautiful little bookshop on Colston Street in Bristol. I think you should come down here and buy some books. I think that would be a nice thing to do for yourself, don't you? Anyway, take care.